Welcome to series of database management system video lectures. Today we'll be discussing about unit 3, topic 3, that is transactions in database management system. What is a transaction? Transaction is a unit of work which is carried out in the database. Okay, so let us take an example for better understanding of this. We are creating a transaction with the name T1. Now, in the memory location at 2000, I have variable A whose value is 100. And at 2004, I have variable B whose value of 150. Right? Now, I'm attempting the first operation here is called as read. I wanted to access to the content of variable A. I am reading A value. And then I wanted to update the A value. I'm modifying the A value to be A plus 50. Right? And then the third step is that I wanted to read value of B. So you are accessing to B value. And now A equals A plus B. I'm adding both the values of A and B here. Right? So these are the series of operations which are carried out by a transaction. So now let us redefine a transaction is nothing but a series of operations which are acted upon the data members stored in the database. Now, to access to any data member, we use a read method. To perform any kind of changes to the data content in the database, we use write operation. And with respect to transactions, we have commit as well as rollback methods, which does the execution, which does the freezing of the data. And then this is to undo the operations. Okay, right. So now we have done transaction T1 has been executed, and these are the series of steps that have been happened. Now let us trace out. You are reading A. At this point of time, we will get the value to be 100. Now the value 50 is added to A variable. So it should be 150 actually. So we are just modifying the value, but then nowhere we have made the changes within the secondary storage. So which means that the A, though it has been added, it is going to be treated as 100 only, as it was 150, but then it is going to be treated as 100 only. Now reading B value, here you are reading 150 and you are updating the value of A by the existing value of A and then B. The existing value of A with respect to our series of operations is 150 and then B value is 150. So on the whole, we will be expecting the value to be reflected in the memory as 300 for A. And now let us read the value of A now. When we do that, you will be getting only 100 plus 150, that is only 250 gets reflected here. Now, why? What has happened? Resulting in 250 is called as inconsistency of data. Okay, so this is inconsistency of data. So for every transaction that takes place in the database, these are the properties, the fundamental properties which have to be adhered by the transactions. Okay, so now for each and every operation which is being carried out, there mustn't be updations that should be reflected here. So we have not used write method anywhere. Write is a method which will update the data in the database. We have not issued commit operation which will freeze the data so that there will not be any more changes that are being taken. If any errors have been come across, then we need to use a rollback so that you can bring back the system into the consistent state where every value is going to be fine, right? Now, this is about the transaction, what has happened. So let us bring back the transaction. See, let us modify the sequence of these transaction steps so that we will make it to be consistent. So immediately after reading of the variable A, we are modifying the value of A, and this should be updated in the database by using write operation. So this is taken as 3 and this should be taken as 4, right? And when you're doing the operation here, it should be fifth, wherein you are modifying A value to be addition of A and B. Now, once you are doing this operation, again we are expecting modifications to be reflected in the database. So again, write operation is required, and this is taken as seventh step. So with this manner, as soon as you have updated the value, it will be reflected as 150 here, and then it will be reflected as 150 plus 150, 300 here. And when you are accessing to this A variable, it will be resulted in 300 here. So this is what matching to our manual calculations. So that's how we are making the system to be consistent state, right? Yes, this is about the transactions, how it happens. Now, moving on to the next one, that is various states in the transactions. So we have 5 states in the transactions. The first one is active, partially committed, committed, failed, and then aborted. Let us see how it happens. The first one is active state. Whenever you start a transaction, so we have started T1 transaction. So we have started T1 transaction, right? So it is indicated by begin T1. Now it enters into active state wherein you are accessing to the data members. Look at this, read A. So now T1 transaction has been started. So that's the reason we are reading the value of A. And then first step is done. Look at the second step. You are manipulating the content of variable A here. So which means that still it is in active state and you are writing into the database, updating the value of database for A variable. Still it is in active state and then you are reading the value and then you are modifying and then updating, right? All these comes into the active state only, right? All this comes into the active state. Now, from active state, you'll be entering into partially committed state. When this can happen? Now look at here. Before you perform this write operation, after performing the write operations, and here onwards, I am not willing to modify any value of A, then I can issue commit the statement here. So till step 3, you can assume that it is partially committed because you have not used commit statement here. So now we can say that a T1 transaction has entered into partially committed state by third statement. Okay. Now, after this partially committed statement, you will be entered into fully committed state by issuing commit statement after 3. So now this becomes 4 here. So now after fourth statement, our transaction will be in committed state, right? Now, after fourth statement, still we are performing the changes to A variable, which is no more entertained because A is already freezed there. So this modifications may not be applicable here. And then again, you're displaying the value of your writing the data into the database there, which can also be not done, right? And then finally reading the content of a variable and then printing, right? So now, after partially committed statement, you will be entered into failed state, because when we are attempting to access to the data member which is no more longer available, right? So then the statement can be cancelled, which may not be executed further. So in that case, I need to either move into abort state. That means the existing transaction either can be killed or to be removed from the memory, or we can re-execute that. Okay, re-execute that. Now, after this commit state is done, and then you'll be into end state. So once the committing is done, this is the status of successful termination of it. Whereas aborting and then ending to it is called as unsuccessful status of it. So finally, you are end with the transaction T1. So this is how the states or the phases of a transaction will undergo into one state to the other state throughout the life cycle of the transaction. So on the whole, we have 5 different states of transactions, life cycle states. Look at here: active, partially committed, committed, failed, and then aborted, right? So this is how it happens. And after committing, absolutely, it may not come back to the aborted state unless forcibly the user have stated any statement, right?